We often hear that sugar is bad for us or that ADHDers need to be eating less sugar, and this advice is not very accurate and it's not very useful either. So today I want to share with you 5 things that every ADHDer needs to know about sugar. Sugar is essentially a molecule that is the basic building block of every carbohydrate that we eat. Everything from lollies to bread to broccoli, they all have sugar in it. But if your ADHD is anything like mine, you might find yourself falling into the trap of the all or nothing approach. Either kind of going, I'm not gonna have any sugar, or finding that you just can't stop eating those carbohydrates. Both of these situations can actually exacerbate our ADHD symptoms. And that's what I want to talk about next, because our blood sugar levels actually affect the way our brain functions. And it is particularly important to think about this for ADHDers. So what can happen is when our blood sugar level drops, it actually affects our ability to regulate our dopamine even more than usual. It also affects other neurotransmitters, and it affects our ability to handle stress. So we might find that we're not only foggy-headed and unfocused, but actually our emotional regulation gets even worse when our blood sugar level drops. So keeping our blood sugar level stable, while important for everyone, is even more important for us as ADHDers. So how do we do this? That's what point 3 is about. We need to talk about 2 things to do with carbohydrates. One is around the quantity of carbohydrate, and that's called the glucose load. Think of that as like the dose of sugar that you're getting into your bloodstream. The second is the glycemic index of the food. This is about how quickly that sugar is absorbed. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about this is that you'll find a lot of nutritionists and even doctors out there will focus primarily on talking about the GI of the food. And actually, depending on your activity levels and what you do, again, neither is necessarily bad or good. It's about understanding what works for you. But it's really important to also consider this in relation to the glucose load. And that's what we're going to talk about in point 4. So how quickly a sugar is absorbed into our bloodstream depends on what's in the food itself and what we eat alongside it. For instance, if you have a piece of fruit, that is going to be lower in glycemic index than if you have the fruit juice, because the fruit contains fiber in it, and fiber is really effective in lowering the absorption rate of that sugar, which helps to stabilize our sugar. Other things that can help to stabilize sugar is protein and fat. However, even if we eat a balanced meal, we also need to think about the quantity of sugar that we're eating. If we're eating foods that have a really, really low glucose load, regardless of the GI, then we might not be getting enough sugar in our day. And if that's happening, we're actually going to experience very similar symptoms to the crash that we experience if our blood sugar levels drop. On the other hand, if we're eating lots and lots and lots of carbohydrates, even if they're all low GI or being eaten in balanced meals, overall our total glucose load is going to be too high, and that can lead to chronic blood sugar elevation, which also then leads to a delayed crash. Either way, we're going to be feeling fatigued, foggy-headed, and unfocused. The last thing I want to share with you is something that I talked about a little bit the other day in my other video, which is around timing. Timing is really important. If we start skipping meals or trying to just eat a high GI snack to give us a bit of energy for the day, that's not going to work very well. We need to continue giving ourselves healthy amounts of carbohydrates throughout the day to keep that blood sugar level stable. So eating balanced meals, eating a breakfast, eating a lunch, eating a dinner, really important to avoiding that crash. If you need support with your ADHD nutrition, please feel free to reach out. I'm just in the process of finishing up my nutrition course, really excited about that. And we can also talk about this in relation to your activity levels. If you're a gym goer, you're really active in your life, all you need to do is head to my Linktree link in my profile. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment here or reach out via the DMs.